Welcome to the Jamodi podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. Selecting teams, that process is, it's hard. I haven't talked to a coach, in 15 years that enjoys crushing dreams, enjoys making the ball stop. If they're out there, like coaches are out there, I'd love to talk with them and just see. But like to me, it's the hardest thing. Now, ultimately, we know that majority of when the ball does stop, it's for a good reason. They didn't put in the time necessary, and sometimes it's things outside of their control. But a lot of times it's things that they just didn't do. They didn't prioritize to get themselves where they need to be. But what is your process, especially at a school where I would imagine you have so many wanting to come out and play, maybe a few more than Grapevine Faith? What's your process?
Yeah, you got to be careful what you wish for, right? Like, coming from Trinity, we had about 35 guys every year come to try out, which was the perfect amount for three teams, or maybe
you're in. You made it.
Like, hey, man, and guys always knew that natural break, like, maybe it's time for me to go ahead. I'm just going to go do baseball now. Or like, hey, man, I'm rocking in the praise and worship band. Like, I'm out. And at Monterey, it was a little bit different. I had more football guys there. And so it was kind of figuring out how to adjust that tryout time. And then now it's you're sitting here at West, like I said, at Monterey, I think we talked about, we had I think like 12 guys in off season, and right now we're rocking with 68 guys in off season here at West. And so you go like, when you had 12, you're like, we need some more guys,
Yeah.
Then you come down and you're like, we don't need this many guys.
Gym's too packed.
Yeah. So it's, it is. And we're working through some of this as a school and how we're going to kind of change this up for next year. But, the one thing that every time I think when we're picking out teams, we've got so many guys you're trying to watch. Like, you almost know the guys you want to see for that varsity. The struggle becomes now, which guys are we looking at for that JV? Which ones are we looking at that JV2? And like, use the terminology whenever we are cutting, people's like, I dislike the ones that you always kind of go like, I don't know what we should do. Are you done? Do we buy you another year and do you produce? We don't have a crystal ball. It's always telling us, if I had a crystal ball, I'd know to put you on JV for 2 years and then you'll be ready for varsity, or you're going to do freshman A to the sophomore team to the JV, and then you'll be a varsity dude. Like I'd love to know the best way to help you develop into what we need for our program. But sometimes we are, like right now we've got guys, some young men, and we've talked to them, next year's juniors. We talked to them, like, some of you guys were on our sophomore team. Like, we're looking at maybe 2 of you guys out of the 14 on that team that will make a JV squad. We had one kid who we bumped up during the year to JV that now we're looking at, well, he'll be a varsity guy for us next year. So it's that, like we go, like, we started out a kid on JV2 who now we're looking at, he's going to jump JV and be on varsity next year. Because we got to see him in some different situations, but which kids did we lose along the way that might have turned out or might pan out? We don't know that. That's why you want some guys to keep working out, trying out. But you try to go in, and what we do is we have an evaluation for coaches that we're watching, right? Like, things we're just going to watch day in, day out and kind of go, I like what this kid does. I like how he moves. I like his reads. I like how he shoots. And that's a little bit more subjective, right? So if a parent came to us, they'd be like, well, how do you know? And you're like, well, I just like the way they played, or Coach Saman liked him, he shot the ball really well. Well, like, people would pick me up to play golf with them if they saw the way I played on 3 holes, but if they saw the other 15, like, I might be, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not their guy. So it makes it tough because some guys don't perform. And then we also we call it competitive skills. The deal we got from Coach Ron Mayberry, but it's doing certain drills now that we can do with numbers. And that way everybody goes through it. We set up cameras to record, but you put guys in 3 to 4 in a group and they've got to record for the other person. So, and they got to sign off that, there is going to be some cheating, but you can kind of watch the numbers and go, wait a minute, this guy, okay, let's pull back up the camera and figure out when they were at that station to kind of look at. But that way now we have some raw data that we can look at from just a skill standpoint, to go with our subjective standpoint. A lot of times they match up. There might be a kid here or there that you go like, that was surprising that we had higher hopes and he didn't perform very well skill wise. So do we take him or not? But it also helps you kind of see some natural breaks. A lot of times you're going to see your varsity guys scoring in that top, definitely the top 20 in your skills. But then like you're going to go, that JV is going to be that next wave. And then, especially when you get down in the freshman level, when we're looking at them, you kind of go like, yeah, this guy, he's so far behind on the skill set. And this data helps us prove why he didn't make the A or a B team on a freshman squad. So it just kind of helps us go through that, and then when you're talking to guys, let them know, like, and then that's the hard deal, right? Because then everybody wants to know, what do they need to work on, and basketball, it's so hard that
everything.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's not that you couldn't score or you can't shoot or you can't dribble, it's kind of like, you got to work on the game of basketball. You're just behind. Cause like, we can't just put you on one side of the ball. Like, you've got to do both, and you got to be able to pass the ball. You got to be able to read, you got to make reads. Like, and sometimes playing's good for you. Sometimes getting with the trainer is good for you. Like, we've seen a little bit of both. Like, I've got a guy that I'm like, he can knock out the skills, but you put a defense on him and like, he can't make a read to help him out. But he's skilled up, but he just had never played, and so you kind of go, well, you need to go to the park. You need to find some guys that just want to play and just learn to start making reads. And, so that is tough. And like I said, then it's, and we see it now a lot more than ever, if you cut certain guys or you don't put them on the right team, right, they're going to transfer. I mean, anything right that we see in the college game, we're going to see it trickle down to us, we lost
high
some
school
good
portal.
Portal. We lost some good freshmen that you kind of go, you're selling the process, right? Like coming in as a new coach, and Plano West has had success with Coach Morton. The last few years has not been as good as, obviously won state in 2015, but been in a drought. But, it's recent enough to try to go back and say, hey, we can be at this level, but it is a process. And like, we did not have a great win-loss record this year, but you kind of try to tell guys, I'm putting you on a freshman team because we want this to be part of the process. We want to be so good that you have to be a freshman on freshman team. And then you're going to be hopefully a JV player for a year, right? And then a 2-year varsity guy for us. That would be, now we know that we're building, really a program, and that'd be the process. But if you're coming in as a freshman at one of the, the third largest school in the state, and we're pulling all these freshmen up to be on varsity, you're not really building a program, so it's, we want you to start going, like, the elite level guys are going to go, but then everybody else, like, you still got to have a process to get there. And that's what, like I say, that's a hard vision to sell to parents, to players, that they can go, well, I'm going to go over here now because I don't want to wait. I want to be on Instagram. I want to be able just to post something, have it, and go enjoy my life right now versus, so it's, some of that too is, right, you may have a kid you keep because they see that process that we want and the process for them as a player. And then also, do they fit in with the rest of what we have as a school of academics, standards, and are they getting in trouble? Are they not? You know what I mean? Like, you all know that as coaches, right? The more off the court of a headache you are for me, how much is that worth me keeping you on the court? And so, doing certain checks on certain players, from teachers or principals, to kind of just, is there any red flags on anybody right now that, that we don't want to have come into the program, just to help build it, and so that's a lot of it, and it's different at each place I've been at. So, another good challenge to accept and try to figure it out.
Because I love the idea of, it's not just what we see, because I think if you're all that, then if it's all based on what you see as a coach, you open yourself up to, parents going, well, you can't show me why. Like, it's just all based on your opinion, even though our opinions are normally right on. Then there's the other side of, if it's all numbers, all, tests or things that you do, then that can also come back to bite you. So it's that art of blending those two together. Right? So I think you're right on the money there. what were some, if you don't mind, what were some of the tests that you guys do?
Yeah, it's pretty basic, you know. I mean, it's kind of like camp drills. I feel like because we end up doing like, you know, you do a weekend dribble, and so we just set up 4 chairs around the certain, you know, and then each time they pass a chair, but they got to go with only their weak hand, and then if they end up touching the ball with both hands, then they go back to zero, you know. So you know, and then we do a block to block shooting, you know, so they're just getting the ball going block to block behind chairs. We always set up chairs just so that you know that, like, because some kids, you know, you tell them block to block and they're barely getting there, and
Yeah,
just kind of
yeah.
like it almost looks like an extended micing, you know. You know, and then just kind of knowing same deal as like any shooting drill we did, you know, it's all the same setup. Either you're your own rebounder, or you know, you get 2 basketballs with 2 rebounders, and you know this drill. You know, we even do just, you know, and this one's just kind of a gut check when, you know, you do defensive slides. You just set up 2 chairs, you know, and they've got to start and they've just got to slide back and forth and see how many times they touch each chair. You know, because that's the one spot where some guys will just kind of be like, all right, I'm just going to kind of low if this one I don't have to do, but it really should be one of your highest scoring spots if you just gut
Get
it out.
after it.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, and it would just kind of go on to some different shooting challenges. We've kind of modified it throughout time of just kind of going what would work, what helps us kind of see some things we know we want to see in guys. But also it's really good, like I say, in our freshman level, because we can really hammer these out, especially after a football season, right? Like it's like we can do it, and then it's also the same drills, you know, because we've got to have 2 tryouts. We got to have one before football is going on. When football ends, we got to come back and do another one, and that way it's staying the same. You know, we can set up the same 10 drills that we did with the guys that were not in football versus you know, so that way somebody can't come back to you also and go like, well, they didn't do this drill. You know what I mean? It's like, no, we did all the same drills, no matter the time of the year that we did it, just so those kids can produce the same, you know, have the same numbers that we're comparing. And, you know, you might call back a kid and go, hey man, like, we didn't have as many come try out and we cut us too short. Like, you know, can we get you to come back over? Or, you know, because one thing that's tough is you don't want to keep too many guys, and then you got to cut them. You know, you keep them for 3 months, and then you're going, now season's about to start, football just ended, now we're cutting you. You know, I mean, that's a tough conversation too. So, you know, it's definitely a challenge in doing that. Then you know, then we're doing we track wins also on guys. Like, so any type of competitive drill that we do with like you know, we might set up a 2-on-2 or a 3-on-2 drill. We're tracking those guys. Like, did they win when they're on defense, or did they win when they're on offense? Just so we can kind of know, you know, like we have one kid that last year, I think through everything we're going through, and everybody's like, and that kid's probably not going to make it. And I was like, he's going to make it because he's a winner. You know, like no matter what team he got on, like if you saw him play, he was not like he's an unorthodox looking basketball player, but you're like, guys, he wins. Like every team he put on, he's winning because he somehow glues that team together, and he's making everybody better, you know? So it's like, he's getting points because, and then he had some skill also, but you know, you just kind of go like, he's winning drills and he's winning these matchups, consistently. Like, he's going to make it because he's going to be a difference maker that sometimes like the type that we can't coach, right? Like they just show up with that ability.
Coach, I'm going to do something for the first time ever since I've been doing this. This is a test for anybody that's listening, and I've never done this before. So at Name and Force with Jeff Clarkson, I was out at the portables teaching ESL reading. This is my very first year. This is 15 years ago now. And the Nike Sport or Nike Spark rating was out, and the NBA Combine. And I thought, what a cool way, like, to get a player a number that they can compare to another player, a number. You know, that's what Nike Spark was doing with these combines in football. And so I thought, well, basketball's not just athleticism like the NBA Combine is all about. There's also skill. And so I started to write these drills and stuff down. And over the years, I created the Jamodi skill rating, the JSR, and I take my guys through it 4 times a year. It's got 4. It's a dribbling, ball handling, passing, kind of all 4 drills there, 4 shooting drills, and then 4 athleticism drills. And at the end of it, it was a math teacher back at Naaman Forest that put this all in an Excel sheet somehow with all the calculations. It spits out a number at the very end, like when you put their scores in. And I've just been blown away over the years. And it's kind of what you said. I can see what they do, and maybe that kid's a winner, but then I also have proof that 2 things. I think, and your test does the same. Not only is maybe a ranking order of your players, but also is my skill work the training that I'm doing, is it working? Like, am I actually getting kids better? And so the Jamodi skill rating, I will share it with anybody that's interested. And it's been the one thing that, like, over the years, I haven't shared with many people. And I've been reluctant to, but I don't know if there's ever going to be anything that happens with it besides just at Faith. We have it on our record board, the JSR Jamodi skill rating, and then our top scores in the last 9 years. But it's probably one of the best things. The kids like it, but for me, the ball handling, shooting, or athleticism, it's like a pie chart, and I get to show them, here's the area of your skill, as athleticism is a skill that you're strongest. Here's 1 or 2 that you're really weak and you need to spend the summer. So we test them at the end of the spring, and then they come back at the end of the summer, and I get to know really what they did over the summer. But I'll share it with anybody. And I've never thought about doing that before, but it's all because of our talk today, man.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. Yeah, I think that's, I always think too, basketball coaches were so much more of guys will share information. Always laugh at, like, other sports. It's like everything's so secretive.
Yeah.
We can't give away our calls, but I think basketball, that's the one thing is, like, I feel like we are always trying to adapt or help the other one out. It's one of those things. I've rarely ran across guys that I didn't want to help out. You know what I mean? It might be because they burned you or you didn't trust them. But most everybody else, you go like, yeah, man, like, the basketball circle is just kind of a different side of, like, and easy to make friends out of it and go and conventions and not know anybody, but be able to sit down and talk the game and know you're getting their true thoughts and what they do and their processes.
Yeah.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.